Euromaxx highlights. In today's show, Stieg, Stockholm, the Swedish capital in the crime stories of Stieg Larsson. Stars Studio, the famous Harcourt photo studio in Paris. Rudolph's Revenge, Santa's reindeer steps out of his master's shadow. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Hello there and welcome to our Highlights edition. Well, the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra is without a doubt one of our local treasures here in the German capital, and so is one of its many stars, Principal Oboist Albrecht Mayer. Although the oboe is one of those instruments that's not so often in the limelight, especially in popular music, Albrecht Mayer has repeatedly brought it into the German music charts in recent years. Well, now he's touring with his 5th studio album, and you can bet it's worth a listen.
Some people say that Albrecht Mayer makes his oboe sing.
The human voice affects us all. And when you play the oboe, you lend it your human voice, your singing apparatus, your speaking voice, all of the resonating spaces that are in your body. You give them to the oboe. In a best-case scenario, the oboe is just a tool that works well.
On his new CD, the 44-year-old plays only chorales written by his favorite composer, Johann Sebastian Bach. The musician's deep love of music began in childhood. A child who stuttered, Mayer began playing the oboe as a form of therapy. Playing Bach's music in particular has always been comforting.
Bach always viewed the oboe as a vox humana, a human voice, and in his cantatas it was his favorite instrument. For him it was the instrumental equivalent of the human voice.
Mayer also plays an oboe that bears his name, a first. Working with an instrument-making company based in Berlin, the musician has developed a new oboe.
It certainly looks nice. You gold-plated all the keys.
What looks coarse is actually a finely crafted work. For years, the musician and the instrument maker searched for the key to creating a better sound.
There's a ridge here in the bell, which most oboes don't normally have. In other words, a proper ridge in the bore. And I'd say it's taken the last 20 years to find the right position for this ridge. Each tenth of the bore constitutes an incredible change, a huge difference.
Aspects of the oboe's mechanical makeup have changed too. Small rollers on some valve flaps are meant to make playing easier.
Albrecht Mayer is an oboist beyond all doubt. So when we try something and it doesn't work, then I can be sure that it's not because of his reed, and it's not because of the player, it's because of the instrument. And when you want to make an instrument, that's a very important point, not to get lost.
Ein ganz entscheidender Punkt, sich nicht zu verirren.
The new oboe is his baby. It made its successful concert debut in November at Carnegie Hall in New York and was a big hit when his tour kicked off in Berlin.
I'm very happy. It was a wonderful birth, and this baby even sleeps through the night. But I think in the coming years I'll try to fine-tune the instrument even more.
Albrecht Mayer is still searching for the perfect sound, but anyone who hears the oboist play can hardly imagine it'll get better than this.
Well, when it comes to crime fiction, it doesn't get much better than Stieg Larsson. His untimely death back in 2004 meant that all 3 books in his famous Millennium trilogy were published posthumously, and they've sold an incredible 22 million copies worldwide to date. Well, just like the avid readers of Dan Brown's novels, Larsson fans can now have a walking tour of the sites featured in his books and get an entirely different perspective on the Swedish capital.
Stockholm. Just under 1.3 million people live on the 14 islands that comprise the city. But most tourists are only familiar with the city centre. Anyone who's seen the filmed versions of Stieg Larsson's Millennium trilogy gets to know a very different Stockholm, a city in which the 2 main characters, journalist Mikael Blomqvist and computer hacker Lisbeth Salander, fight together against a murderous conspiracy. Millennium tours take tourists through parts of this Stockholm. They see Stockholm's city centre only from afar, because in Larsson's novels, it's mainly the criminals who live there. The main characters live in the less familiar district of Södermalm. There's Bellmansgatan 1, for example, where the male protagonist of the Millennium books, Mikael Blomqvist, lives. And the building in which his partner in fighting crime, Lisbeth Salander, buys a 21-room penthouse in one of the novels. Then there's the Mellqvist coffee bar. Not only does it appear in the books, in real life, it was one of Stieg Larsson's favorite cafes.
The books are so fascinating, and we make it possible to make them be even more living to people. And well, they get their eyes open for how nice and beautiful Stockholm is, and not just the center part, not just the old town, but even though we have so much more beautiful places here, at Södermalm, for example.
Stieg Larsson never lived to enjoy the success of his books. He died of a heart attack in 2004 at the age of 50. Larsson wrote the Millennium novels in just 4 years, more or less as a sideline, while working as a journalist. Nowadays, they're on sale in 41 countries. Kurdo Baxi often met Stieg Larsson in the Mellqvist coffee bar. Baxi was a good friend of the writer for years. Now he himself is writing a book about their time together. It's to be called My Friend Stieg Larsson and will be published in Sweden this coming January.
Stieg Larsson is a kind of persons you don't have more in this world, because he didn't like money, he didn't like to be famous, he didn't have any diet, he was eating terrible, he was eating pizza, he was eating hamburgers, and he never left the relation with the working class where he was born in.
So it's no wonder that Södermalm, once home to blue-collar workers, plays such a large role in Larsson's books, even though the district has long since become very trendy. Until now, the tour participants have known Södermalm only from the books. Thanks to the tour, they get to know the Södra Teatern bar, where Lisbeth Salander enjoys a beer after getting through their adventures. The tour ends in Stockholm's Municipal Museum, which organizes the tours. It also houses a small exhibition on the Millennium films. Among the exhibits, the desk at which Mikael Blomqvist writes his articles.
Actually, we had no idea what success this Millennium tour would make. So we couldn't plan for anything, and we started in a small dimension. And now it's the most popular tour that we give here at the Stockholm City Museum.
And no wonder. Whether as films, books, or city tours, it seems everything that has anything to do with Stieg Larsson's Millennium trilogy is guaranteed success.
Well, it's one of those unwritten rules in French celebrity circles that if you haven't been photographed by Harcourt, you are not a real star. And to date, the legendary photography studio has over 1,500 VIP portraits to its credit, including film icons like Marlene Dietrich, Romy Schneider and Buster Keaton. Well, founded in 1934 primarily to fulfill the needs of the celebrity-hungry press, it soon attracted artists, writers and directors, even politicians. So Euromaxx had a look at the best portraits as Harcourt celebrates its 75th year of creating myths.
At the Harcourt studio in Paris, famous actors such as Romy Schneider, Brigitte Bardot and Jean-Paul Belmondo have had their portraits done. The renowned studio has been photographing international celebrities for 75 years. The typical Harcourt look used to be achieved with a very special trick.
They'd use soft and sharp focus in a single shot. The nose, mouth and eyes would be clear and sharp, while the rest of the face was artistically blurred. This effect was obtained by stretching a lady's stocking, supposedly a Dior one, in front of the lens and burning holes in it with a cigarette.
Nowadays, the effect is achieved by modern means. But a portrait by Harcourt is still considered a prestigious calling card. A wide range of celebrities, including French footballer Zinedine Zidane, Queen Rania of Jordan, and fashion designer Jean-Paul Gaultier have been photographed here. An exclusive clientele like that must produce plenty of interesting anecdotes.
What happens here between Harcourt and the stars remains Harcourt's secret.
Photographer Costia Petit does at least reveal how his work with actor Jean Reno went.
In films such as Léon and the Visitors, Jean Reno seems quite brutal. But when he came into the studio, he just sat down and lightened up the mood. The shoot was relaxed and jovial. He played along beautifully.
Today, 39-year-old French actor Thierry Neuville has an appointment at Harcourt. He's been working on a film with Clint Eastwood. His latest screen appearance was with French actresses Monica Bellucci and Sophie Marceau. Of course, both of them have also been photographed by Harcourt, just like their colleague Laetitia Casta. The style is always the same, a classic black and white portrait. Now it's Thierry Neuville's turn. While he's made up, the studio is prepared. The photographer has a clear idea of how he wants to present the actor.
Thierry's face has character. That's a gift for any photographer. Today we'll shoot him in three-quarter profile, and we'll play with various more or less natural poses, using his shoulders and hands.
Mysterious and glamorous. Despite the digital camera, the pictures look as if they're from a bygone era.
Harcourt picked up its aesthetic from the cinema of the 1930s. Back then, screen actors were considered gods, and that's how they were presented. They didn't show any emotion. That's why you see in our photos this gaze into the distance, and a face without any particular expression, not passionate, not laughing, not angry.
Then there's that special moment when the photographer shows the client the proofs from which the best picture will be chosen. The best photos are still reworked, so the end result looks like this. A real star portrait and a perfect Christmas present for Thierry Neuville's grandmother.
Well, speaking of Christmas, where would dear old Santa Claus be without his reindeer? Those faithful chargers that pull his sleigh through all manner of wind and weather on Christmas Eve. Well, traditionally, he works with a team of 8. And in North American culture, the 1939 appearance of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, added a 9th, who has been a favourite with kids ever since. Well, here in Germany, it took a little longer for the reindeer to find his place in Christmas lore, but now it looks like he is here to stay.
Reindeer seem to be everywhere at this time of year. They come in all variations. A fancy version like this one by German porcelain maker Villeroy & Boch. Or funny ones. Ones for hanging up. Or cuddling with. They're printed on paper. and adorned t-shirts and cushions, and even the pages of sophisticated fashion magazines. The reindeer is becoming the symbol of Yuletide. These children at a Christmas market love the real thing. And reindeer are even taking leading roles in movies. More than 500,000 people worldwide have already been to see the animated film Nico and the Way to the Stars. Of course, an even more famous showbiz character is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He was invented by an American composer, but the true home of the reindeer is in Northern Europe, in Lapland. We asked Suvi Watiowara of Berlin's Finnish Institute to tell us what she knows about reindeer.
The Americans are good at marketing. We also know the song about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's nothing wrong with it, but we Finns, and especially Finnish children, know better. In the Nordic countries, we've known reindeer as draft animals for ages, actually as far back as people can remember.
The Sami people in Finnish Lapland have herded reindeer for centuries. And it may be they who contributed the reindeer-drawn sleigh to the Christmas tradition. Among the oldest pictures of Christmas reindeer are these 19th century drawings by Thomas Nast, a German-born American cartoonist. A 1930s advertising campaign made reindeer suddenly hugely popular. In Germany, Father Christmas had traditionally delivered gifts on foot, and seasonal decorations were long dominated by old-fashioned German ornaments. Until the reindeer came, that is, and conquered Christmas. But their cuteness wasn't the only reason for their appeal.
When it comes to Christmas decorations, people are always looking for something new. And these animals from the far north are just the right thing to go with the angels, the straw stars and all that. There's also this trend towards the classical country house style, and the reindeer fits in very well with that.
Germans are fond of deer of all kinds, and they're not terribly particular about distinguishing between species, reindeer or elk. Who cares, as long as it has antlers? Finns, however, see it differently.
I often notice here that people can't tell the two animals apart. But how can that be? The elk is much, much bigger than the reindeer, up to 2 meters tall. Besides, there's a difference in their colouring. And the antlers are different. The elks are much, much larger.
But both animals have a certain symbolic power.
They evoke snow-filled woods, the untouched nature that we all long for during hectic times. And if we don't get snow at Christmas this year, this visitor from the far north will be especially welcome.
Reindeer make people dream. They bring us presents, they have a long tradition, and they're decorative. What more could we want from a seasonal mascot?
Well, it was 100 years ago this December that the success story of the legendary sports car Bugatti began in the Alsatian town of Molsheim. That's in northeastern France. Limited editions, elegant designs and unique constructions are what continue to make it a showstopper to this day and, of course, a collector's dream.
The T57, built in 1934. The T35 from 1924. And the 2005 Veyron. Sedans and sports cars from carmaker Bugatti have been making collectors' hearts race for 100 years now. Ettore Bugatti opened his first factory on December the 15th, 1909, not far from Strasbourg. His first cars were nearly all one of a kind. Only 6 Royale models were ever made, each one with a different body. French engineer Paul Kessler has written several books about Bugatti's cars. Together with other enthusiasts, he's examined the concepts and ideas that made the brand so successful. For Kessler, it's all about the unmistakable Bugatti designs.
The elegance, the ovals, the rounded shapes. It isn't always easy to explain, but the cars are a harmony of lines, where one flows into the other.
Other factors which played a role were luxury materials and top-notch workmanship.
Here on the steering wheel you see Bugatti's love of detail. How with technology the metal is integrated into the wood. It's wonderful. Or the ashtray. As a non-smoker I don't use it, but it's made of crystal. There are beautiful details like that everywhere.
The aluminium motor was a technical sensation back in the 1920s. Many of Ettore Bugatti's innovations grew from his passion for the racetrack. Ettore Bugatti died in 1947 and his company went bankrupt soon after. But in 1987, a new era began. Italian businessman Romano Artiolo purchased the name Bugatti and built the EB110, a limited run of just 120 vehicles. The design, technology and workmanship of the 560 horsepower sports car were true to the brand's illustrious past. British collector Alexander Harston owns one.
The technology, leading technological advances in cars. I mean, I think this was very advanced for its day. And it continued the tradition of excellence. It certainly keeps up with any modern supercar and is better than most. Probably the Veyron is the only car that's quicker point to point than this one.
The latest Bugatti is the Veyron. In 1998, VW purchased the brand rights, but it took 7 years to develop the 1001 horsepower sports car. Nowadays, the cars are built on the premises of what was once Ettore Bugatti's country home in the French town of Molsheim. In his day, emperors and kings picked up their cars here. And the clientele is still exclusive.
I'd say give us €1 million and we'll give you the car. And that's the end of the discussion.
100 years on, Bugatti is still looking forward. The company is already working on its next model.
Well, if Germans spend an average of 26 minutes a day in their bathrooms, it's logical that more and more of them want to enjoy every one of those minutes to the fullest, which explains why bathrooms are expanding into larger and more attractive spaces with designer fixtures and furniture and fittings for some do-it-yourself pampering. Well, sounds like the perfect idea for some winter warmth, so we checked out the trend toward the private spa.
A combination sauna and steam bath, a rainwater shower, and all the furniture and fixtures are elegant. Attorney Andreas Becker from Osnabrück has turned his bathroom into a cozy private spa.
When you come home, you just don't feel like changing your clothes, going to a public sauna, then going to the locker room to change again and driving home in a rush. Time is short. If you want to have more time for yourself and your wife and children, then you don't want to have to work up the energy to go somewhere. You want to feel good.
Some 30,000 saunas were installed in German bathrooms last year, almost a third more than the year before. This luxury model is called Biorhythm and costs about €26,000. The trend in Germany is to larger bathrooms. 10 years ago, the average size was 7.5 square meters. Today, it's more than 12 square meters. Organic shapes and natural colors are in demand, as are spacious walk-in showers with massage nozzles. A private whirlpool costs at least €1,500. The complete ensemble is available from Villeroy und Boch for €25,000. Customers can try out the tubs in advance, but only by appointment. The important things to check are that the tub shape and jet strength suit your taste.
All these little holes through which the water comes out onto your back, all the way down to your toes. You feel it all. It's lovely.
And on a cold winter evening, a bath for two in your own whirlpool is mighty comforting.
And don't forget that you can review our Euromaxx highlights on YouTube at your leisure. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and bye-bye.